One day while Touka Mimori was on a school field trip with the whole class, he once again dreamed of the torture his parents did to him. He suddenly woke up due to the noise of one of their classmates because Shogo was teasing their class president, named Ayaka. None of them dared to interfere with them for fear that Shogo might mess with them too. But after a few minutes, Touka could not stand what Shogo was doing, so he stood up to stop him in making fun of Ayaka. Because of this, Shogo got annoyed and started bullying him. Luckily, Takuno interfered with him and ordered Shogo to return the book he had taken to Ayaka. Shogo heard him and immediately followed Takuno's order. After a few minutes, they were suddenly teleported to a room and saw Vicius, who introduced herself as a goddess. They were told that they were in another world inside the alien kingdom. She added that they were summoned to be the heroes to face the great demon empire. Even if they refused to accept it, they would not be able to return to their world. And the only way for them to return was through the ritual that required the Demon King essence. And to get it, they must first defeat the Demon King. After Vicius explained everything to them, they were brought closer to the appraisal crystal to find out how strong the powers they have. Some of them got S-class like Takuto and Ayaka, which impressed Vicius. When it was Touka's turn, only a little light came out and Vicius did not even say what class type he was. He did not insist to know about it too, and when they were all done, the goddess explained to them their stats. Just a few moments later, Vicius suddenly called Touka to come down because they had to perform a ritual. Touka was told that he was just an E-class and had the lowest rank among them all. To prevent him from being a burden to other heroes, Vicius said that it is necessary to send him to the ruins. If he could get out of there safely, the alien kingdom would let him live. These ruins were called the Ruins of Disposal, and many heroes and criminals had been exiled there. Touka even tried to beg to spare him and said that he had unique skills, but for Vicius, it was still useless. Before teleporting him, he was given a unique item. Ayaka tried to stop Vicius, but the goddess just put her to sleep. In Touka's anger on what she did to Ayaka, he used paralysis to attack Vicius, but it did not work. He could not do anything while his other classmates were just laughing at him. Before he was teleported to the ruins, he told Vicius to prepare herself once he came back. Just a few moments after he arrived at the ruins, he was immediately attacked by a monster. He quickly ran away from it until he stumbled against the rock. When the monster was about to kill him, he quickly used the paralysis and luckily it worked. He took advantage of this opportunity to get away, but he met another monster ahead. He also used paralysis on it and then he tried the poison. Suddenly, the monster that attacked him earlier managed to follow him. He tried to use the paralysis again, but it turned out that he could not use his skill on the same target. When he noticed his other skill, which was sleep, he quickly used it on the monster. To make sure that the monster could not get up again, he also used the poison. But after defeating the two monsters, his problem did not end there because more monsters approached him. He paralyzed them all until he leveled up, causing his MP to be restored as well. He continued using the paralysis on each of them, and after that, he used the poison on them. With each monster he defeated, his level also increased. Even his sleep skill had also started to level up. The remaining monsters feared for their lives that they were forced to retreat. After he got a few things that he could still use, he continued to look for a way out. Soon he also felt hungry, and since he had no other source of food, he was forced to taste the dead beast. Then he noticed the sudden change of color on the gemstone in the unique item that he was carrying. He put mana on it, and was overjoyed that it brought out food and drink. After he ate, he faced another group of monsters. As he watched them die one by one, he remembered the cruelty of his parents. Until one day, they left him. Fortunately, his aunt and uncle came and took him with them. He looked at his stats again, and because of the number of monsters he had defeated, his level had raised that much. As he continued, he came to the area where there were different doors that he could open using his mana. When he entered the first room, he saw two skeletons and a pouch next to them which contained a lot blue gems. In another room, he saw the skeleton of the great sage, named Anglin. The sage wrote a letter, and because he could read the language used, he found out what Anglin went through at the hands of Vicius. When Touka looked at Anglin's things, he saw the book entitled Forbidden Arts. He also saw a scroll of forbidden magic, but he could not read it. Yet he decided to take it because if he learned to read what's written on it, there was a high possibility that he could use it against Vicius. Before he left, he opened the book and he saw a warning about the Soul Eater. He continued walking until he saw a door. He suspected that it might be the tunnel out of the ruins. When he looked at the door, he thought that in order to open it, he needed to put a gemstone on the door. After a while, he saw the Soul Eater and found out that it had the gemstone he needed to open the door. He tried to use paralysis on it, but the Soul Eater suddenly attacked him. It even summoned its disciples to fight him. However, he quickly understood what the Soul Eater wanted to do, so he found its weakness. He immediately thought of a good plan and made the enemy believe that he was already falling into its trap. When he saw an opportunity, he used the paralysis. Even though the enemy was paralyzed, it still struggled to move. Despite that, the Soul Eater could do nothing, so Touka ended its life with poison. When it died, the souls of its victims suddenly appeared to him. The great sage begged him to make Vicius pay, but in his mind, even if he had not asked him, he would make sure that she would pay for what she did to him. After that, he did not waste any more time and immediately took the gem to get out of there. Meanwhile, Vicius sent the other students to the forest to fight the monsters. When Ayaka regained consciousness, she could still feel the pain in her stomach, and she remembered Touka. She immediately talked to Vicius, who pretended to be sad about what happened to Touka. She found out that the ritual of expelling the weak students was not yet over because his classmates were still undergoing a test to determine who had the ability to kill the monster. The goddess said that if anyone failed the test, they would also suffer what Touka went through. Since Ayaka did not want this to happen, she decided that she would be the one to fight for her classmates who would fail in the tests. While Touka was walking in the forest, he saw the small slime being bullied by the big slimes. But it did not just give up, so he helped the slime as well. He used the non-lethal poison on these creatures to scare them away. When he was about to leave, he noticed that the small slime kept following him. He decided to take it with him so that it would serve as an eye behind his back. When he opened England's book, he read an experiment on how to make a monster like the slime stronger. He knew it would help him, but he also made it clear to the slime that he intended to take revenge. Since the slime had no problem in whatever he was planning, he named it Pigamaru. Just a few meters from where they were, there was a woman being chased by a group of men called Holy Watchers. But the woman could not get away from those who were chasing her, so she was forced to face them and use the spirit regalia. But what the Holy Watchers caught was Touka, and they wanted to kill him. When one of the enemy attacked, Touka quickly used paralysis. Since he remembered his classmates by their behavior, he did not hesitate to end their lives. The woman was surprised that her pursuers suddenly stopped moving, so she thought that they might be planning something else. She was suddenly attacked from behind, but it was only Pigamaru, and Touka got a chance to use paralysis on her. In order for them to talk properly, Touka let the woman's mouth move. Touka wanted to ask some questions, but before the woman answered him, she asked him if he had fought with 4 men. When he said that he had killed them, that was when the woman decided to answer his question as well. He found out that they were in the kingdom of Ulza, and he was wrong to think that the ruins of disposal were also an alien. He showed the scroll to the woman if she could read it, but she could not read it either. But the woman remembered that she knew someone who might be able to read it. She said that the Witch of Taboos could be found in the land of golden-eyed monsters. Touka immediately walked away and left her with a few minutes left before she could move again. After a few hours of walking, he arrived at the provincial city of Mills. He introduced himself as a mercenary, so he managed to enter the gate easily. He immediately went straight to the inn so he could rest. By nightfall, while he was eating, he heard 3 men talking about different groups on the continent, and one of them was the so-called Black Dragon Knights. They were recognized as the strongest in the continent, led by the so-called humanity's strongest. But at the moment, his priority was finding the Witch of Taboos and how to make Pigamaru stronger. He found out that the skeleton king he needed for the enhancement solution was in the Mills ruins, so the next morning, he decided to register to join the exploration on the newly discovered floor of the ruins. They were told that whoever could get the Dragonite chalice would be rewarded with 300 gold coins. While they were registering, Touka noticed a man who was talking to the woman because he was thinking that she was the former knight captain of the Holy Empire of Ni, named Sarah's Ashrain. Ceres was known to be an elf, so the man was surprised that the woman that he was harassing was not an elf. Touka thought that she might be the woman he met in the forest who introduced herself as Mist Belukas. After they registered, they went together on the road, so Mist took the opportunity to talk to Touka. Touka asked for advice on the items that he would buy before entering the ruins, and he promised to pay for it. Since Mist also needed funds for her trip, they both came to an agreement. Touka introduced himself with the name Hattie Skull, but he knew that the name Mist was just an alias, so he admitted that Hattie Skull was not his real name either. They immediately started shopping for items, and after they finished shopping, he paid her the same amount as he promised. When they parted, he did not waste any more time and went straight to the mill's ruins. A few moments later, he saw the man who talked to Mist, and he was told by the two mercenaries to kill Mist. He approached them, and because he heard their conversation, they also decided to kill him. But Touka would not just stand there, so he did not think twice about eliminating the three men. After a few hours of walking, he reached another floor before the new floor that they were supposed to explore. He slept for 3 hours in there, and when he woke up, he continued walking. He met a group of Saber's tigers who decided not to continue because something strange was happening in the ruins. They were referring to the death of the monsters for an inexplicable reason, which was his doing. He thought that this was a good opportunity for him to carry out his purpose in the ruins. When he entered the room on the new floor, he immediately saw the dragon eye chalice. He suspected that the statue next to it would move, so he immediately used paralysis and poison to the monster. Mist also came, so he decided to give her the dragon eye chalice because it was not the reason why he went there. He also told her why he went there, so to show her gratitude, Mist decided to accompany him to serve as his bodyguard. He agreed to what she offered, then he clarified the possibilities of what could happen to them. As they continued, Mist helped him a lot because of her skill in wielding a sword. Apart from this, Touka found out a lot of information about the heroes that were brought to this world and the various monsters. Since he already trusted Mist, he also introduced Pigamaru to her. They decided to rest first, and for Mist to get enough sleep, Touka used the sleep on her. Not long after, she transformed into her true form as an elf, which made Touka think that she was Ceres. On the other hand, the Black Dragon Knights were in the forest where Touka had killed the members of the Holy Watchers, but they could not find any trace that a battle had happened in that place. After a few hours of sleep, Ceres suddenly woke up and was wondering how she fell asleep. Touka pretended to have just woken up as well, and they continued to look for the Skeleton King. When they saw it, Ceres immediately prepared to fight. But before the Skeleton King could attack, Touka proceeded with paralysis, and he immediately used the poison on the enemy. After defeating the creature, he successfully obtained his purpose. They were about to leave when Pigamaru pointed to something, and it turned out to be an egg wrapped in magic cloth. Touka thought that Pigamaru might have wanted them to bring it too, so he took the egg. After Ceres gave the dragon eye chalice, she and Touka agreed to meet that night because Touka wanted to offer her something. That night, while Touka was preparing what he got earlier, Ceres arrived, and it was exactly at the time they agreed. Touka wanted Ceres to be his bodyguard because apart from the fact that she needed funds, he knew that her skills would greatly help him in his journey. He stated his plan to head to the land of the golden-eyed monsters to find the Witch of Taboos. It would be easier for Ceres to go with Touka because it was close to the Duchy of Yamato, but she could not decide yet. Touka gave him time to think about it, and he also took this opportunity to make her confess her true name and identity. For this reason, Ceres showed her true form to prove that she trusted him. When Touka saw this, he also told Ceres his real name. She accepted Touka's offer, and as his first payment, Touka gave her a blue gem. Only then did Touka find out that this gem was actually the blue dragon gem with an even higher value than the dragon eye chalice's reward. The next morning, they agreed to meet outside the inn after Ceres got the dragon eye chalice reward. While waiting, Touka went to the forest to conduct the enhancement experiment on Pigamaru. He had no idea that something would happen at the reception that Ceres did not expect. On the other hand, after Ayaka went through the trials, she and Vicius talked again regarding the failed students. She thought that she could save her classmates even if she was the one to fight for them, but Vicius did not fulfill their agreement. Vicius thought to allow Ayaka train the failed students, and if she refused, Vicius would be forced to exile them. For this reason, Ayaka could do nothing but obey the goddess's orders. After a few hours, Touka was wondering that Ceres had not returned yet. He immediately thought that something bad had happened to her. While walking, he overheard the conversation of two men referring to Ceres, so he found out that Ceres ran into the forest. The Black Dragon Knights suddenly appeared to chase Ceres. Ceres tried to fight against them and was able to knock them down. She was suddenly attacked by a dragon, but she knew where its rider was. She fought him, but unfortunately, she lost her balance. Before the enemy could harm her, Touka suddenly came to help Ceres. Since they wanted to ask the Dragon Knight some information, Touka let him speak. Ceres wanted to know who ordered him to kill her, but before the knight could answer, someone suddenly attacked him. It was done by Civet, and because they were far away, Touka could not use his paralysis on them. Ceres found out from them that their Emperor Ordola wanted her killed. He did not want Ceres to be defiled by another man, so he just wanted her to die. Since Civet wanted to see Ceres' spirit regalia, he thought of a plan. The two of them had to fight, and if Ceres won, she would be allowed to escape and live in peace. But Civet noticed something strange about Touka that caught his attention. He said that Touka did not show fear even when facing the 5 dragons. Touka thought that it was best to talk to Civet while he thought of a way to attack. He found out that Civet was also interested in meeting the heroes from other worlds. Because of this, he told the truth that he was also a hero from another world. Touka expressed that he wanted to fight with him, but he had to get stronger first, and if that day came, he would make sure to defeat him. Civet liked his determination to win against him, so he agreed to let Touka get stronger first. Apart from this, Touka also begged to let Ceres live because she would be a great help as he fulfilled his mission. Civet did not see any problem about it because he was looking forward on that day that he'd be able to fight with Touka. When they were about to leave, that was the moment that Touka took advantage of the opportunity to use the paralysis. They could not do something to fight Touka, causing them to fall on the ground with their dragons. Using the poison, Civet's other companions died, but one of them was able to emit a signal. The other Black Dragon Knights came quickly, so Touka used Pigamaru to face them. Using the assault exile, he effortlessly defeated them. After a while, Civet died after suffering from poison. One day, the heroes were gathered by a disciple of Vicius, named Nyanton. Shogo could not accept that only a small girl would command them, so she gave him a taste of how fierce she was. They were told that they would be returning to the royal capital for the next stage of their trials. When Touka and Ceres got to the next town, he decided to buy a mask and the one he chose was called Lord of the Flies. He thought that this suited him because of what he had been doing. The misfortune of Civet's group spread quickly, and the different kingdoms did not expect it. They were trying to figure out what really happened to them. They found out that they were chasing Ceres before they died, and at the scene of the battle, they thought that Ceres might have suffered many wounds and that she might be dead too. A few moments later, a soldier approached King Ganazia to inform him that a group from the Ulza kingdom was spreading the word that they were the ones who killed the Black Dragon Knights, and they called themselves the cursed magic users of Ashint. Touka and Ceres were already in the capital of Ulza kingdom, and they planned to make preparations before heading to the land of golden-eyed monsters. A blood sport competition similar to gladiators in ancient Rome was being held in the kingdom. After they got a room in an inn, they went out to eat. They heard the conversation of the other people about the Black Dragon Knights, and the story that Ceres was already dead. Aside from this, they also heard that Ashint was the one who defeated the members of the Black Dragon Knights. After a while, the Ashint members came there who already recognized themselves as the saviors of Ulza. But Touka did not feel that they could be a threat to them. Suddenly, the two men talked about the Witch of Taboos, so Touka approached them to get more information. While talking to them, he found out that a blood sport warrior had seen the Witch of Taboos, and it was the champion Eve Speed. Eve came there too, so Touka did not miss the opportunity to talk to her. But Eve just denied that she saw the Witch of Taboos. She had no idea that Ceres could tell if she was telling the truth or not. Because of this, they had a strong hunch that Eve Speed knew where the Witch of Taboos could be found. After Eve ate, she visited the young dark elf that she wanted to free. Her name was Lisbeth, and this she the reason why Eve was still in the blood sport competition. The next morning, Touka and Ceres conducted an investigation about Eve. They found out that she used to be a slave who was sold by her master at the Colosseum. Since her race was rare in the competition, her first fight was a hit with the viewers, and since then, she had not lost in 3 years. And the next day would be her last fight in the blood sport competition. Ceres found out that it had been 2 years since Eve bought her freedom, and the reason why she was still in the competition was to buy Lisbeth's freedom. Unfortunately, most of the contestants who fought for their final fight would usually die. There was a possibility that the Duke who managed the competition named Duke Swan was doing something to make sure that the champion would meet a tragic fate. After hearing this, Touka came up with a plan to make Eve trust them. In the afternoon, they talked to Eve again to tell her their findings on the possible things to happen to her in the competition the next day. Touka wanted them to run away from there with Lisbeth. But Eve did not agree because she knew that they would only put Lisbeth's life in danger if they do it. Touka promised that he will protect Lisbeth no matter what happens, and to make her believe in his strength, he said that he was the one who truly killed the 5 dragoons. Since she still did not believe him, Touka used the paralysis on her. This was followed by Sarah's appearance, and she confirmed what Touka had said. Although they had convinced Eve, she chose not to accept their offer. Despite her decision, Touka told her their plan to leave the next day at dawn, and informed her where they would go in case she changed her mind. While they were on their way back to the inn, they saw a woman who was being forced by the Ashant members to come with them. Touka did not hesitate to save the girl, so he used his berserk. For hours before their scheduled departure time, they headed to the gate. Meanwhile, Eve could not get Touka's words out of her mind, so she decided to go to Duke Swan to clarify what they discussed in case she won the battle the next day. But when she got close to Duke Swan's room, she heard him talking to one of his men about their plan for her. Besides this, they also had something else planned for Lisbeth, which made Eve so angry. When she was on her way back, she was seen by the leader of Ashant, named Mwatsi. He said he would wait for a good fight in her match, and then she continued walking. She immediately went to the place mentioned by Touka to accept their offer. Because of this, they went to Lisbeth, who they found being hurt by the owner of her lodging. Out of fear, the woman begged Eve not to kill her. Eve decided not to kill her, but there were things she wanted the woman to do. But Touka suddenly came in, and from Lisbeth's reaction to what he did, he also knew how bad Lisbeth had suffered. Eve led them to where Ceres was, and it was there that the woman was eliminated. While they were walking out of the capital, Lisbeth took the opportunity to introduce herself. So Touka and his companions also told her their real names. When Eve felt Pigamora's presence, Touka also ordered the slime to introduce himself. After they entered the forest, they rode a horse to speed up their journey. However, Duke Swan's men and the members of Ashant also moved quickly to chase them. Touka came up with a plan, and he used their horses to confuse the enemies. And as expected, the first army that was behind them quickly followed the horses. Touka instructed Eve to keep Lisbeth away, while he and Ceres would face the second army. When the Ashant came, Mwaji immediately felt that someone was hiding near them. Ceres appeared wearing the mask of the fly swordsman, who was the companion of the Lord of the Flies in the legend. She found out that Ashant used poison to make people believe that their victims were cursed. Apart from this group revealed that they were only using Duke Swan for their ambition to conquer the entire kingdom. Just a few moments later, Mwaji also looked for Sarah's companion. Even though she said that she was not with anyone, he still did not believe her. For this reason, she removed her mask so that they would know that she was Sarah's, and disprove what Ashant had said, that they were the ones who killed the 5 dragoons. However, Mwaji still did not believe that she was the one who eliminated the 5 dragoons. Mwaji told her to kneel down, and she did what he wanted. They had no idea that Touka would attack them using the assault exile. They were all paralyzed, and it was immediately followed by Touka's poison. When the enemies died, Touka ordered Ceres to pick up Eve and Lisbeth. The first army that followed the horses earlier had returned, so Touka and Eve decided that they would be the ones to fight the enemies. Eve acted as a bait so the enemies could not see Touka's attack. Duke Swan also came, but it turned out that Touka's paralysis had reached its maximum target, so he just used the dark. Because of this, the enemies could not fight properly, so Eve easily defeated them. When they were all exhausted, Duke Swan even threatened them, but Touka did not let him leave. Eve did not also miss the chance to take her revenge. On the other hand, when Jean found out what happened to Ashint, he was very worried. Aside from the fact that his plan had been ruined when he used them as baits, he was also worried that Vicius would find it out. While in the kingdom of Alien, Ayaka underwent training with Niantic after she agreed to Ayaka's request. From what she showed, Niantic believed that she could be stronger than her one day. She only asked that Ayaka would not tell anyone about their training. The next morning before they continue their journey, Sarah suggested to Touka that they should give a name to their group. She suggested a name, and it was the Lord of the Flies Warband. Since the majority wanted it, Touka also agreed to it. When they were close to their destination, Eve asked Touka for magic to show them how far from them the location of the Witch of Taboos. After a few days of training by the heroes, Vicius congratulated them when all of them had leveled up. But since they were not yet capable enough to actually fight, Vicius decided to invite fighters to help them. Aside from this, Vicius was also planning to send them all to the land of golden-eyed monsters as soon as possible. When Touka's group arrived in the land of golden-eyed monsters, they immediately fought a monster. After Touka killed it, he suddenly remembered that he had seen this monster in the book he was carrying. When Sarah's looked at the book, it was also one of the ingredients needed for the forbidden item. They continued walking, and just a few minutes later, Eve felt the kind of monster that she could not defeat. Touka pushed them back, and with just one attack of paralysis and berserk, he was able to kill the monsters easily. Like the previous monster, Touka also recognized them because it was also what they needed to make Pigamaru even stronger. They suddenly felt something strange, but this time, they could not tell what it was. Touka found out from Pigamaru that it was the egg they took from the ruins, and it was about to hatch. A horse came out of it, and they noticed its sudden growth. It approaches Touka, and he knew that it was not dangerous. He had seen an absorbing magic on its body, and he tried putting magic on it so they could see what effect it would have. After a while, it started to grow, and with every magic it absorbed, it only grew bigger. Touka was glad because they had a new companion. He named this creature Slay after the name of a divine beast, Sleipnir. The other heroes were also in the land of golden-eyed monsters along with the famous warriors who would train them. Takuto was not satisfied with what they were doing because only the weak were made to fight with them. By nightfall, they also fought monsters like the ones that Touka's group fought earlier. The four saints decided to ask the heroes to retreat first and let the saber tigers to watch over them. When the monsters came, they helped each other to defeat it. But there were more monsters coming, so Takuto took the opportunity to show his strength. Using his Dragonic Buster, he was able to defeat all the monsters. Meanwhile, the sisters Hijiri and Itsuki were not far away, and they noticed that someone was spying on them. Hijiri suspected that it was Vicius who sent them. Due to Takuto's attack, Touka noticed the light not far from them. It came from the northeast where the direction of Alien was located, so Touka just remembered Vicius. The next morning, when Eve came out, she was surprised to see a big monster lying next to Touka. What amazed them even more was to know that it was a human-faced beast. After Touka got what he could use from it, they continued walking. When they got to the tunnel that they believed was close to the Witch of Taboos, a monster suddenly appeared behind Eve. Eve quickly attacked it, but it suddenly let out a light and then screamed. When it took its last breath, Touka felt many monsters approaching them. Eve volunteered to stay behind to give Touka time to continue to the Witch of Taboos. But Touka did not agree because he preferred to be the one to face the monsters with Pigamaru and Slay. Because his skill was the only one that can cause severe damage to the monsters, Eve could do nothing but agree to Touka's suggestion. Even to the location of Ayaka and the other heroes, there were many monsters that showed up to them. Kane was about to be killed by a monster. Luckily, Kashima saved her. But Kashima was left alone to deal with it. As soon as Touka entered the forest, he began to attract the attention of all the monsters. With his companions, they let the monsters chase after them, causing the monsters that attacked Ayaka to disappear. But the rest of them did not survive, and Ayaka found out that Kashima was also missing. After a few minutes, Eve decided to go to Touka. She knew that she could help Touka a lot with her keen senses. Other than this, they cannot afford to lose Touka from their group. When Touka had a chance, they used Assault, Exile and Berserk to fight the monsters. But because there were so many monsters, he just let them chase after them. After a while, they came back and used Dark, Paralyze and Berserk over again. Before his magic points ran out, he made sure he could level up first. And through this, his magic points would resupply. When the other monsters started chasing them, 2 monsters learned how to avoid his attacks. For this reason, he made a way to trick and defeat them. But their fight did not end there because a new group of monsters had arrived. Touka and Pigimuru got separated from Slay, causing them to be surrounded by monsters. Despite that, they did not just give up until Touka could level up again. Kashima was able to ward off the monsters that attacked her, but Eve saw her after a while. Eve could not believe that there was another person in that area. Kashima reminded her of Lisbeth, and when she was about to touch her, Itsuki suddenly attacked. Although she avoided the first attack, the next attack made her unable to speak. Itsuki just continued to attack until Hijiri came to stop it. Hijiri knew that Eve was not a monster like the ones they fought earlier. She apologized for what Itsuki had done, and even Itsuki apologized to Eve. This was when Eve realized that Hijiri was also one of the heroes like Touka. They introduced themselves to each other, and after Eve said that she was looking for a colleague, she immediately left. Touka continued to fight the monsters until he defeated them all. But just a few moments later, the human-faced beast appeared to him. They tried to fight it, but it made an attack that hit him and Slay. As the enemy approached them, Touka threw his mask and used Pigimuru to distract it. The enemy had no idea that Touka was already above him, who quickly used Paralysis and Berserk. The monster tried to move while Touka explained what he did until the monster was killed. Because of this, Touka's Paralysis skill had also leveled up, and he had also unlocked an advanced skill. But even before he could recover from his injuries, another monster appeared. He was about to use Paralysis, but Eve suddenly came to save him. Because they did not have the strength to walk anymore, Eve decided to carry the 3 of them until they got to where Sarah's and Lisbeth were waiting. They decided to spend the night in a nearby cave, so they could regain the strength they had lost. While Hijiri and the girls were on their way back to their other companions, Itsuki asked Kashima why she went to a Sagai's group when the one she wanted to be with was Ayaka. Kashima told the story of what happened on that day that caused her to end up in a Sagai's group. The next morning, Touka's group continued walking. When they arrived in the territory of the Witch of Taboos, they noticed something on the trees, and these were magic seals. Even the boulders that were moving ahead had it too. As it was about to touch them, Touka immediately used Paralysis. They did not eliminate it, so the Witch of Taboos would not think that they came to cause trouble. When they entered the small house, they saw the secret passage leading to the Witch of Taboos. Meanwhile, when Ayaka saw Kashima, she was about to approach her, but a Sagai quickly hugged Kashima. Even though a Sagai showed that she was happy that Kashima was alive, Ayaka still knew what she was thinking. Hijiri said that they just did the right thing to find Kashima. She had a hunch that the ones they fought in the forest had the intention of killing them all. If Kashima happened to be killed, it would have an effect on Ayaka. And if this happened, they could immediately tell what would happen next. Vicius ordered his men to tell the 4 saints that the Great Demon Empire's army was on the move, so the heroes needed to return. She was excited to see how strong the heroes had become. When Touka and his companions entered the place where the Witch of Taboos was, they were surprised by what they saw. It was as if they had gone to another world with only a door between them. After a while, the Witch of Taboos appeared to them and introduced herself as Erika Anaroviel. When they saw her, Touka was even more excited that he had found the one who could help him with the scroll of forbidden magic. He could no longer wait to carry out his desired revenge on Vicius. This is the end of the last episode of Failure Frame Season 1. I hope you like it, and give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel so you won't miss newly uploaded videos. Thank you for supporting this channel.